authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
The alleged burglary, which this law enforcement officer actually put down in his report is a trespass. Now, just for explanation, burglary is trespass plus. So like trespassing to someone's home and stealing inside, or trespassing to someone's home and committing a felony therein. So calling it just a simple trespass suggested that he did not see any evidence of a further crime inside. But he did go inside, ask questions, ask follow-up as to who he should contact. Capricorn Clark was someone he's supposed to follow up with. Cassie Ventura was someone he's supposed to follow up with. But according to him, even though he reached out multiple times, they did not get back to him. And it seemed like he only started reaching out to women after he found there was female DNA on the crime scene, specifically that Molotov cocktail. But that information never really got out through cross-examination, just the insinuation of it.
Okay, so that arson investigator, let's talk about him and the evidence that he potentially found. What did he find?
A lot. Okay, so we've already saw some of the photos of the damage to Kid Cudi's Porsche 911, but we also saw evidence of a lighter that was left not too far from the vehicle, as well as this container and the bottle of malt liquor that was, you can zoom in, you can really see how much gasoline was still in there that the arson expert said that he can smell, but also tested and confirmed. And then of course you have like this silk kind of fabric here that we believe was inside of this Molotov cocktail, fell out, was damaged in many ways. They called it a designer piece of silk, and that's why it kind of fell apart. And we don't see the damage you typically see from a Molotov cocktail that firebombs a place. But these evidence were collected and shown to the jury as to how this investigation rolled out for the arsonist.
A designer piece of silk?
Yeah, he was able to say that because of this portion here that's not burnt, you can see that one was like silky and very soft. And also the design on it. The investigator kept calling it a designer piece of silk, which at least in my mind, I'm like, okay, so who would have a designer piece of silk that you might use a Molotov cocktail? When they were talking about the bottle, I was shocked that it was malt liquor and not another bottle that might be signature to Sean Combs, but they tried to insinuate that maybe designer had something to do with who did it.
Okay, let's talk about that black glove. I asked Aaron about this as well. It was found in the car. Is that important?
So I think when it comes to the defense's case, there's not going to be one piece of evidence that you're going to say, you know what, this black glove is the reason why you must acquit. It's not that kind of case. But it was a small piece of evidence where they were trying to insinuate that the person who threw the Molotov cocktail inside of this car might have been using that black glove to protect themselves, and that the investigator should have investigated, should have seen what the DNA was, instead of simply taking the word of Kid Cudi to say that a single glove, because they couldn't find the other one, was his, and they should not test it or check it, saying that the alleged victim here is directing the investigation and not the people who are investigating the case.
Brian Buckmeyer, always so good to have you break this down for us. Thank you so much. Well, the show is called Burden of Proof, and that burden, well, it rests on the prosecution. And here's the superseding indictment that they brought against Sean Combs. The very first count Diddy is facing, racketeering conspiracy. The indictment accused Combs of creating a criminal enterprise with members and associates engaging in crimes like sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. But what exact racketeering conspiracy? To break it all down for us, I want to bring in Michael Bachner. He's a criminal defense attorney here in New York City who is not involved in this case. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. Okay, so Combs has denied the accusations, pleaded not guilty, but help us understand exactly what he's accused of. What is racketeering conspiracy?
So the Racketeering Act, also known as RICO, came about in 1970 and was really established to fight organized crime, but it's been morphed into prosecuting people in gangs, in legitimate businesses, etc. So basically, the government's got to prove that there was an enterprise. The enterprise is a partnership, a corporation, a group of people acting together like a gang. And that can be an enterprise. They then have to show that there was a pattern of activity. So that pattern could be that they have to demonstrate that 2 predicate acts were committed during the course of a 10-year period of time. Those predicate acts can be the bribery that's been alleged that occurred with Mr. Flores. It could be the arson. It could be the burglary. They've alleged particular patterns of conduct in the indictment. Then they have to show there's something called continuity. Continuity means that these are patterns of conduct that occurred over a prolonged period of time. They didn't just occur in a week or 2 weeks or a month, but that there's a fear that this type of conduct will continue into the future. And then they have to show, of course, that the defendant, that is Mr. Combs, that there was a hierarchy, a structure involved, and that Mr. Combs either ran it or participated in it along with other conspirators. And contrary to what people believe, you don't have to name the other conspirators in the indictment by name. You don't have to charge them. You just have to allege that they existed and call them as witnesses or produce evidence that there was more than one person, that is Combs and one other person at least.
Okay, you mentioned it, but we keep hearing this term RICO in this case. What exactly is that? How tough is it to get a RICO conviction on something like this?
So RICO, this Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, it's a tough of charge to prove, basically because it's kind of complicated. The jury's going to get the law from the judge, and the judge is going to say, ladies and gentlemen, to convict Mr. Combs, you have to find, first of all, there was this Combs enterprise. That is, there was a hierarchy, a structure that Mr. Combs ran, was part of, etc. Then you're going to have to show that there was this pattern of activity. You're going to have to find that he at least committed or was involved in or directed the commission of an arson, a burglary, the bribery, the sex trafficking, some of the acts alleged in the indictment, which the judge will instruct the jury on. And then he's going to say that you must find this continuity purpose. And they're also, of course, going to have to show that Combs was involved in the conspiracy, that it was an actual agreement that he had. It doesn't have to be in writing. It doesn't have to be, written in blood. It's got to be an agreement, an understanding, even informal, with at least one other person, that this is how the structure of the organization would be running. And the organization can be a legitimate organization, but has illegitimate goals. And the government is alleging that this was a structured community that Combs ran, that people abided by his wishes. He directed that the abuse occur. He directed that these freak-offs occur, that people cleaned up for him, that people bribed for him, that people committed arson for him, they burglarized for him, all in support of the organization. It can't just be random, unrelated acts. They have to be related conduct, these predicate acts. And the government's alleging all of this stuff together was in order for Combs to maintain his hierarchy, to maintain the enterprise.
And the prosecution's still presenting their case, but when Combs's team gets up there to present his defense, how do you defend a case like this?
Well, I was one of the lawyers in Combs's first case in 2001, representing a co-defendant in the case, and we were lucky not to have to deal with this type of RICO issue. But the defense is kind of the same. They're going to be alleging that the Combs's abuse, which they admitted on their opening statement existed, was domestic in nature. This is just a horrible way that he behaved. He's a bad guy. He's a creep, all of those things. But they're going to have to try and show that the acts were consensual, that there was no pattern, no conduct, and no hierarchy, and Combs was not directing this conduct.
Michael Bachner, thank you so much for being with us. Still ahead, the legal strategy behind the defense's request for a mistrial and why the judge may have denied it. Also ahead, will Diddy take the stand? We're answering some of the top questions people are asking about the trial online. Stay with us.
Okay, we are Super T.
Welcome back to ABC News Live, day 11 of testimony in the Sean Diddy.
Days 10 to 12. Thank you guys so much. Remember, when you come in, get your teacup filled up and like and subscribe.
Combs trial, a celebrity stylist to a Los Angeles Fire Department arson investigator, all taking the stand. Let's get right into breaking down the key legal strategies that we saw playing out in court. Brian Buckmeyer playing the defense, Bernarda Villalona playing prosecutor. Brian, let's start with you. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. The fingerprint evidence from the break-in at Kid Cudi's house. It caused a whole thing in court today. Why did that cause such a stir?
Because the insinuation that the defense made that the government was attempting to do, that there were fingerprints, clearly no one knew who they connected with, that were on the glass of the Kid Cudi's home, and also that we just heard that there were fingerprints on the Porsche 911. It was insinuated that at some point in time they were going to cross-reference them and see who it was. We know Sean Combs was accused of burglarizing Kid Cudi's home, and then it got to the point of like, okay, it's destroyed. How do these people get destroyed? And it kept going and going and going to the point it's like, where are you trying to land this plane? And when they got to the point of asking, is it unusual for these to be destroyed? That's when the defense jumped up and said, we can see where you're trying to land this plane, and that's improper. And that's why they brought up the mistrial. And I think whenever you have an opportunity to argue mistrial, you do it, because you don't know if it's going to work in this trial or on appeal. We've seen cases like the Rust case with Alec Baldwin, where a mistrial argument actually led to a dismissal. That's what they're hoping for. It doesn't always happen, but you make the argument anyways.
Where were they trying to land the plane?
I don't know.
So for the prosecution, when you see something like this happen, does this worry you at all that this could come back to haunt you later?
Yes, but usually when you're the prosecutor and you're the person that's trying the case, your goal is to get the conviction and let someone else deal with the appeal. But I would say I was in a courtroom when this happened, and literally there were gasps in the air in the sense of that the person I was sitting next, we started looking at each other, and we were looking at the jury. In terms of the defense asked for a mistrial, but that was later on, not in the presence of the jury. But it was clear from how the questions were going that the insinuation was that someone in Diddy's camp was responsible for getting rid of those fingerprint cards, especially when you take into account Capricorn Clark had testified that she had this conversation with Harve Pierre, who's in the defense's camp, shortly before she got fired, which was around the time of when this fingerprint card disappeared.
Oh.
So huge concern for the prosecution, but this prosecution is not thinking about it because their goal is to get a conviction, not to worry about the appeal.
All right, the credibility of the arson investigator also seemed to be something the defense was sort of trying to make an issue today. Why? What was the issue here?
Well, this is how it works when it comes to credibility. If you don't have the facts, you argue the law. If you don't have the law or the facts, you argue credibility. And when it comes to this investigation, you're trying to say this investigation was steered by Kid Cudi. There is clearly a black glove inside of that car. It's the crime scene. Why would you not test it? What, because the person told you not to test it? That's not how law enforcement operates. Now, are you making a mountain out of a molehill? Absolutely. But this is why we put on become defense attorneys, because sometimes those mountains do get acquittals. And so you're going to try to get that one person on the jury to be like, you know what? Yeah, they should have checked that glove. And because they did it, I'm not quite sure of this predicate act. And that's how you try to walk your way to an acquittal.
Your response?
So in terms of the glove, I wasn't concerned about it because during redirect, the prosecution immediately went and asked this investigator, was like, look, is there a reason why you didn't find that the glove was of importance? And the investigator was like, of course, because the owner of the car said it's my glove. Obviously, he didn't set his own car on fire.
How is that obvious unless you test the glove?
It's his glove. He's not going to burn his own car. An entire investigation, so it's not relevant to the investigation.
No one's ever burned their own property before in the whole history of the
Okay. All right, let's move on to this next issue. The celebrity stylist that took the stand, he said he heard Combs tell Ventura, quote, he would beat her. If you're defense, you hear him say that, what are you thinking?
I think similar to what we saw in other witnesses, you avoid that conversation and you try to go somewhere else. Because I think when it comes to Deontay Nash, he was a phenomenal witness for the government in trying to show coercion and control and the assault. I mean, when they're talking about Cassie hearing that Sean Combs is downstairs and trying to jump off of a balcony, you try to avoid that and you try to focus on other issues of this case where you're going to try to.
And that's where I'm going to stop it right there. Like, I can't wait to get to the end. So Diddy was controlling who? Hitman, drug mules. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Look, like, think of the syndicate of a mob family. There are top level generals. There's killers, hitmen. you know what I'm saying? There are levels to everybody. I did not say Siri. I said serious. Okay. My Siri came on. Anyway, okay, there's levels to that. Oh my God. Diddy's a mob boss. He was controlling his stylist, his personal assistant. Like, come on. It's not like y'all are saying, okay, he had a high level ranking general, he had a low level ranking general, he had a hitman, he had, these people over here, they were laundering money through this business, Sean John, Garigio, Ciroc. Okay, they were laundering money. They were using that as a way to wash the money. You know what I'm saying? Those are drug trafficking things that you do when you're a drug trafficker. Because he was controlling his assistant and she let him, or he let him. You see what I'm saying? Like, okay. Y'all are putting yourselves in compromising situations and then mad when you get blackmailed. Okay.
Paint the relationship with Cassie and Sean Combs as toxic, equally using drugs. You're going to try to continue down that path of these are two individuals who are in the thralls of drug abuse and domestic violence, and this isn't trafficking, this is domestic violence. You try to pivot how you're going to talk about that conversation.
How does Deontay Nash help the prosecution?
Deontay Nash played a crucial part in the prosecution's case today, and Deontay Nash was number one able to.
I think he played into what the prosecution are trying to show reasons why Diddy should be federally indicted, but I don't think that they've quite hit the ball out of the park yet. I don't hear it. He's somewhere controlling his personal assistant and the hairstylist. Did you see the fucking hairstylist get out of the van? That is a whole, and I'm not saying homosexuals can't be gangster, but when was the last time you saw one in a mob family? The mob don't even fuck with homosexuals. If you're a homosexual in a mob family, you probably get killed. Okay, so not for nothing, like, fuck out of here with this shit. And they better hope Diddy doesn't get off. If he does, I think he's gonna sue the state of New York and shit. I think he's gonna sue him. Probably the police, SWAT that raided all his houses and all this shit. Like, if Diddy say he completely walks, I think he's gonna sue.
Corroborate the violence. Number two, corroborate the control that Sean Combs had over her career. But number three, also corroborated the sense.
Oh my God, he was controlling her career. That's like if y'all work at a regular 9-to-5 job and you never get a raise and you never get promoted, but you stay sitting there working that same 9-to-5 job and you never walk away, and your boss tells you you're never going to find a better job. You're going to sit your ass down, get your ass together and work this goddamn job, and you take it. And it looks like he's controlling your narrative, but you never fucking walk away. Whose fault is that? Diddy's not the only music producer in the world. Cassie was a beautiful talent. So you mean to tell me no other producer, just because even if Diddy would have been like, nah, don't fuck with her, you don't think Jermaine Dupri might have signed her? Or whoever? Still, no matter what, Cassie was in control of her own fucking destiny in that moment with Diddy. I think she built it up, play by play, for her to sue Diddy for the excessive amount of money that she did to live happily ever after with her personal trainer, and that's exactly what she's doing.
Is that for the first time you're hearing that Cassie had told someone that, look, I did not want to participate in the freak-offs. I did not want to go to the hotel. So instead of the jury trying to infer that that's what she felt and didn't want to participate in the freak-offs.
Why didn't she get out and leave? Oh, it wasn't that easy for her. I mean, if Diddy wasn't somewhere breaking her legs, it only sounded like Diddy was like abusing her in the confinements of certain places. He wasn't like hitting her all upside the head walking down the street. I mean, if you're really being ex-trafficked and you're walking on the street with your ex-trafficker, you flag a police like, oh my God, you try to alert somebody. Like, help me. This person, I'm under duress. I'm being kidnapped. I'm being ex-trafficked. You slip somebody a note. You give signs like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not where I need to be standing right now. You blink twice if you okay. Cassie was walking down the street with her head held high in Diddy's arms, all on the red fucking carpet, girl. Quit it.
Now you have it coming out of her own mouth while it's taking place. She's telling someone else. And Deontay Nash came off very credible. But I want to spin off to another question that was asked of Deontay Nash.
Was she abused? Yeah. Did he knock her upside her head and put his foot in her ass? Yes. Yes. And it's unfortunate nobody cared. Deontay tried to care. Capricorn Clark tried to care. Unfortunately, it didn't reach anybody until Cassie herself walked away, right? And filed a lawsuit against him. And now she's the key witness in his ex-trafficking trial and all this shit.
Was asked to in cross-examination, and which was a bombshell for the defense. When asked whether Deontay Nash, whether he was an employee of the enterprise, yes. He got paid by Bad Boy, yes. Did you participate in any criminal activity under Mr. Combs? Yes. Huge bombshell, because now you have the criminal enterprise and people acting and committing crimes. What
enterprise though? I mean, hell, I ran a red light a couple weeks ago. I got a traffic ticket in the mail. Was I running red lights because I was being a drug mule for Diddy? Fuck no. But I still committed an offense punishable by paying a ticket. What crimes did they do for Diddy that's, you know what I'm saying, RICO level? What? Now, they might have been state level crimes, but they're not, like we keep having to go back to. They didn't charge Diddy in the state. They're charging him in the federal court. So let's bring up some federal type shit here.
Criminal enterprise. They weren't expecting that answer.
Did they say what he did? Did he say?
No, they moved on fast from it because that is a bombshell. They asked the question that they didn't know the answer to. That Cassie had told someone that, look, I did not want to participate in the freak-offs. I did not want to go to the hotel. So instead of the jury trying to infer that that's what she felt and didn't want to participate in this freak-offs, now you have it coming out of her own mouth while it's taking place. She's telling someone else. And Deontay Nash came off very credible. But I want to spin off to another question that was asked of Deontay Nash, that was asked to in cross-examination, and which was a bombshell for the defense. When asked whether Deontay Nash, whether he was an employee of the enterprise, yes. He got paid by Bad Boy, yes. Did you participate in any criminal activity under Mr. Combs? Yes. Huge bombshell.
Okay, but what? But what? What are the crimes? He could have been fucking jaywalking across the street. What's the crime? Trying to hurry up and get Diddy one of them motherfucking Manhattan pies that nigga be eating. That he had the making of the band stars trying to go get. They had to walk a country mile across New York City to go get that shit. What was the fucking crime? There's petty crimes and then there's high-level crimes. What are they? So what? He said he committed crimes while he worked for Bad Boy Enterprises. A lot of us have done crimes while we worked our fucking job. Was it enough to get you a RICO? What you got going on? You see what I'm saying? So what are the crimes? So what he said that shit. That wasn't no bombshell for the defense. What were the fucking crimes that he committed while working for Bad Boy? Because if it wasn't to the level of a RICO charge, what are we talking about?
Because now you have the criminal enterprise and people acting and committing crimes under that.
What is it? What are the levels that you're on? If it was somewhere like, okay, Diddy,
I don't know. He had me go down there and, you know what I'm saying, extort somebody out of some money because Diddy felt like he owed them money, and if they didn't give it to me, I was going to break their leg. Now, that's something you can start looking at. Oh, okay, yeah, Diddy might have been Ricoing. But if it's some bullshit, you know what I'm saying, like some low-level petty drug crimes or something, Diddy had me go pick up a couple of ounces or something for a freak-off, that's not RICO. That you can maybe try to indict somebody on a state charge, but on a RICO, you got to start getting up into the kilograms and tons to fuck with RICO charges. Like, what are the crimes? Was he somebody that actually transported people across state lines against their will, and Diddy made him do that? Then that's the X trafficking. But if he drove to go pick up a prostitute because Diddy said, go pick that hoe up over there, she's coming with me tonight, we finna have a freak off, where's the crime? Other than he paid for a prostitute. Like, what are y'all saying? Where's the crime?
What criminal enterprise? They weren't expecting
anybody can say that shit. I can say a lot of shit. Anybody can say any goddamn thing. That doesn't make it true. And it doesn't make it to the level of whatever y'all are trying to persecute somebody to that extent of. What's the fucking crime? I want to know what the crime is. Maybe it is a RICO, but y'all ain't said nothing.
Answer.
Did they say what he did?
Thank you.
They moved on.
Hello. Did they say what it was?
That's from it because that is a bombshell. They asked the question.
What's the bombshell? If you don't drop the bomb, how you gonna drop Diddy in jail? How? The bomb is when you actually put that nigga in. That's the boom. If you don't fucking say what it is, then it's nothing. You have nothing to think about because there's nothing to go on.
The answer to.
Which is a cardinal sin for any defense attorney. If you don't know the answer, don't ask a question because you get stuff like that could bury your case.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Brian Buckmeyer.
Why? What do you mean? If he was to say, okay, Diddy made me do X, Y, Z. Say it was the level of a RICO. Prove it. Prove that Diddy made you, as a part of this syndicate, underground enterprise of a RICO charge, made you do things like this. Show us the fucking proof of what that looks like. You can say anything out of your mouth, but where's the proof at? That would have been the boom for the defense to be like, told you y'all didn't have shit that nobody can substantiate and put no evidence on it, that Diddy did these things that y'all are trying to say to put him in fucking federal prison.
Mona, thank you both for being with us. Coming up, will Diddy take the stand? We're answering some of the top questions people are asking about the trial online when we come back.
Okay, so we got Georgie Murray on Kick saying, I love your Kick channel already. You got a few engagers and followers. Keep up the good work. Contact me if you want to collab. I'll think about it, Georgie. Thank you for chatting and becoming a sipper. Make sure you go over there and follow me on Kick, okay? So where are we with this, y'all? I also wanted to throw in here while we are just, catching up on day 10 through 12. Diddy's daughters graduated from high school. So between all the myths of him and everything else that is going on, they graduated from high school. Okay, that is a big accomplishment, especially considering what they've been under this past year. But yes, they did graduate from high school. We're going to tap in, take a look at what that looked like for Diddy's daughters during their graduation of 2025.
Jesse Combs. Delilah Combs.
A
So these
major milestone for the Combs twins,
Diddy's
their
daughters.
high school graduates.
We are so proud. You guys don't understand because this is
Graduating from high school this year amongst the Diddy trial. Okay. They are graduating high school while their dad's in prison, or not prison yet, or hopefully, if he's not found convicted, then he'll go to prison. Whatever. Amongst all this mess that Diddy's doing. Okay.
a big deal.
Jesse and Delilah's friends and fam capturing the moment on Instagram, all to celebrate their achievement. Now, this all comes amid their dad, Sean Diddy Combs' ongoing sex trafficking and racketeering trial.
We know that Sean Combs' twin daughters were having their prom celebration this weekend. Now, as we're in week 2, not the same presence. There are a few people that are obviously there in support of Combs.
After being courthouse fixtures week 1, the girls sat out week 2 to wrap up their senior year on the West Coast, as Diddy maintains his innocence back east.
With each witness, we get a better understanding and picture of what the prosecution is saying, because, these are their witnesses that they're calling, but the defense always has this opportunity to sow doubt into the credibility of each person, or just try to make a case, obviously, for Sean Combs. So it becomes this sort of back and forth, and the details some days are very interesting, fascinating, and honestly sometimes hard to even report on. But I think we just are all waiting to see where is this going? And I hear a lot of people commenting, where's the sex trafficking? Where's the racketeering? And when you hear that a trial is going to last this long, 6 to 8 weeks, it's going to be a bit of a slow, road to the very end.
Right. That was Diddy's daughters, Delilah, and the other one, I don't remember her name, so sorry. They're twins. Diddy's twin girls graduated from high school this year, 2025.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay shifted.
What's your undeniable truth, something you stand on?
ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
Before the fire.
Right. And that that Diddy and an assistant had basically broken into Cuddy's house, found a gift that Cuddy was going to give Cassie, and there's evidence that Diddy was there. Cuddy took a fingerprint from
the investigators did.
Well, Cuddy gave the fingerprint to the investigator.
Right.
It was a fingerprint that was on the door, and it was of an unknown woman, but they had a fingerprint. What the prosecution tried to do was insinuate that they could take that fingerprint and tie it to a fingerprint on the arson attack on the Porsche. Well, guess what? Cuddy's fingerprint that he took off that door was gone.
Was destroyed.
Gone.
At some point, that after it was in police custody, that was destroyed. And when the prosecution raised that during the testimony from an arson investigator, the defense said, hold on a second. It's like the scene is, wait, you're out of order. This whole court's out of order. They were very upset and felt that this was grounds for a mistrial because they had, what they felt is the prosecutors were insinuating Diddy somehow had something to do with the destruction.
Which is sort of like losing the Cassie video in 2016 at the Intercontinental.
Yes. Yes.
There's two big issues with presenting this kind of testimony to the jury. One, they might think you're trying to draw a connection where you have none. You have one set of fingerprints and you're testifying about another set of fingerprints that you can't actually connect. The other problem is this had only happened around 8 months before that evidence was destroyed. So it plants the seed, according to Diddy's defense team, that Diddy was somehow behind the destruction of evidence, maybe paid off an LAPD official. And you remember during the jury selection process, a lot of people said that they thought Diddy was a rich and powerful person who could make things go away.
Yeah, and the defense is saying the prosecution is playing into that conspiracy theory that maybe is already out there in the jury pool.
Yeah, but there's no evidence that Diddy paid anybody off or anything.
No, which is their
point.
Make them sort of prejudice against Diddy, just the mere thought in front of them. It's hard to unring the bell.
It seems like a small, insignificant thing that the defense is saying.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's insignificant.
No, because clearly people think that. I mean,
there's a rule for the prosecution in this is like a nothing thing.
Yeah, well, you're right that the judge just said, "Hey, jurors, don't listen to that testimony." Struck the testimony, but didn't declare a mistrial.
Let's hold on. Get real for a second. What the prosecution is saying, or insinuating, according to the defense, is Diddy knew those fingerprints were going to incriminate him via some associate and connect him to the arson and then the burglary.
And by the way, there was also testimony from an LAPD officer that the car, they had a photo and they saw the car that was, or an SUV that was parked in front of the house led back to, it was owned by Bad Boy. So again,
but that's at least hard evidence. But the insinuation is that Diddy destroyed the fingerprint because it incriminated him in the arson and connected him to the burglary.
I have a very important question.
It's an
I have a very important question.
There's reasonable doubt here.
It is an insinuation, but here's my question. Did the LAPD officer offer any explanation why evidence from an investigation that was less than a year old, that was at that point
was
7, 8
destroyed?
months, why was it destroyed? And I'm not insinuating anything, but if I'm on the jury, I want to know, why was it destroyed?
Well, let me tell you, they watch CS.
Point, though, Charles. It's a great point, because why was evidence that's so fresh destroyed? This isn't a cold case from 25 years ago where you're clearing out the decks for new evidence coming in. This is a very fresh case.
Why was it destroyed?
Yeah, there was an investigator who mentioned that they were destroyed. He said it was strange that they were. He would have needed to sign off on something like that, and somebody went around him and did this.
So when was it? What year? This is important. What year was it destroyed? And what year was the? And what year? And what year was the arson?
The arson was in January of 2012, and the burglary was December of 2011. So
Okay,
about 8 months.
so here's the thing, and people in the jury watched CSI. The statute of limitations had not run.
This is very true.
The statute of limitations had not run. Why would they destroy evidence when it's still a live case that can be prosecuted if they get more evidence, especially when it involves a celebrity as big as Diddy? Why would something that critical
Why do
be
I
destroyed?
feel like, as you are speaking right now, you are making the defense's case for a mistrial?
I'm saying that it's powerful.
Yeah, it is very powerful. I don't.
So who destroyed it and why?
Well, by the way, the bottom line here is the judge refused to declare a mistrial. There was no mistrial, but the judge did do something that I always think is interesting in a trial. The judge said that the jury gave them instructions they cannot consider any of the testimony about the fingerprints, either at the burglary or at the fire.
That's the biggest crock of all.
So what? So the jury is going to act like they.
The biggest crock of all trials is telling the jury, don't listen to something you just heard, but just remember it, expunge it from your brain. It's not practical, but it's something the judge has to do.
Plus, the defense made such a big stink about it that you got to think, oh, why are they raising this?
Exactly, it makes it even
worse.
worse.
Something must have happened. They got rattled.
People's brains are not like an Etch-a-Sketch. And the reality here is that on appeal, this could come up because, look, look, I think it is interesting. Why was it destroyed? Because, look, a lot of people are going to say that Diddy also destroyed the original video at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016. So if he's capable of doing that, did he destroy the fingerprint, or did he pay somebody off, to destroy the fingerprint in 2011 or 12? And, look, there's no proof that happened, but how does the jury not to? How does the jury not? That's right.
How do you
That
bring
is
it up
right.
on appeal if you don't know what the answer is?
No, you bring up the prejudice to their client.
Yeah,
What
that's
you do is
exactly
you
what I
preserved
do.
it for appeal, and you say, the judge overruled me, didn't declare a mistrial. That was an error, and now they have a grounds for appeal. I'd be interested to see if he loses and gets convicted, what they do with this.
I'm Brooke. I'm from the UK. I think the defense team is just scrambling. I think it's clearly obvious, Diddy is a powerful man. It's within his power to get these things done behind the scenes. People have known about him for years. There's been rumors for years. I'm not even in the country, and I've known there's rumors about this man for years. I think he's clearly guilty. We've seen it. The public knows it. Let's just get justice done and get justice for these women, please.
Well, there's something called a trial, right? And you kind of want to go through the trial
Skip all that.
before you
Guilty.
Yeah, you don't want to skip over the trial part.
That's not how it works in this country, or even in yours.
We have sort of trial-related news.
Yes. Good news for Cassie. We broke the story yesterday that she was in a hospital in the labor unit, and what's supposed to happen in a labor unit happened. She had the baby, her third child, with Alex Fine, and the baby was born sometime Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday afternoon. And we're told that although the baby arrived slightly early, maybe like within days, mom and child are doing just fine. We do not know the gender yet.
Do not know the gender.
She was the star witness in this Diddy case just a couple weeks ago, and even a judge had noticed that she was ready to pop, and he noted that they were going to limit her testimony because they were concerned she was going to be giving birth any day. So at least baby is here, baby is healthy, and all is well.
Okay, we are going to move on.
All right, that was some updates from TMZ. I think we're gonna just keep the ball rolling with TMZ, y'all. Seeing what's going on. Then we're gonna move on over to US versus Diddy. TMZ presents throughout the entire trial, right? Okay.
And furthermore, you had the LAPD officer testifying that those fingerprints from Cuddy's house disappeared, that they were destroyed. Hey everybody, Charles here, and day 11 of Diddy's trial brought a bombshell in terms of a mistrial, or at least the defense made a motion for a mistrial, one that was shot down, but not before some very tense moments in court. So we're going to get to the mistrial because what it's really about is the destruction of evidence, and the defense says that the prosecution played a little dirty by trying to make the jury think that Diddy paid off cops or someone in law enforcement. I'm going to get to all that in a moment, but let's start with kind of, I don't want to say comic relief, because certainly he was testifying about very serious things, but Cassie's friend, Deontay Nash, who was also her celebrity stylist, he also did styling for Diddy, provided a little lighthearted moments just in the way he described a few things. You know, there was a photo that was a prosecution exhibit. There's a photo of Deontay in some glasses. There's a blue background. It looks like a very stylish kind of headshot. And they asked him, is this an accurate depiction of what you looked like back in the time period we were talking about? And he said, not even close. The prosecutor said, it's a glamour photo? He says, yes, I look amazing. So that drew some laughter in the courtroom. So that was the lighthearted part. Then he got into what he witnessed, and that clearly was not lighthearted. Talked about seeing Cassie being abused. He talked about what was asked what Diddy would call Cassie when he was around them. Remember, he spent a lot of time around both of them, styling them for different events, for award shows. And he was asked what names Diddy used for Cassie. He said, bitch, hoe, Cece, baby girl, and slut. The prosecutor said, how would Cassie react to these names? And Deontay said she would be very sad. He talked about a moment when there was an award show. This was in 2014, and he had styled her for this. He thought, in his words, said she thought she looked amazing. And then he said Diddy came in and clearly disagreed. Diddy grabbed him, grabbed Deontay, he said, lifted him up and basically demanded that he change her look altogether, which he then did. So testifying to threats being issued here, like, you didn't get this right, physically shakes him up and says, do a better job. So he testifies about that. Now, in fact, yes, it was actually the Oscars, I should say. There was an Oscars after party. And he said that Diddy picked him up and threatened him. And then he changed Cassie's hair. And I guess everything was okay at that point. So that was Deontay Nash. And by the way, at the end of the day, he was being cross-examined by Diddy's defense. He's going to be back on the stand to start the day tomorrow. And we'll see how that goes. Now, the big bombshell, as I said at the top here, was about this motion for a mistrial. Diddy's defense took issue with the testimony of two people, LAPD officer Christopher Ignacio and LA Fire Department officer Lance Jimenez. They were both testifying about evidence having to do with Kid Cudi. Here we are again, 2 days of testimony after Kid Cudi, and all of this still keeps coming up. What they were testifying about were their investigations into the break-in at Cudi's house, and then also the arson, the car bombing of Cudi's Porsche. And the LAPD officer said that the only evidence they collected from Kid Cudi's house, sorry about that, get a little tongue-tied. So the only evidence they collected from Kid Cudi's house were two things. The officer says when he pulled up to the house, he saw a black Escalade pulling away from the house, and he noticed the license plate. He didn't stop the car because at that time he didn't know there was a crime that had been committed, but he took note of the license plate. Later, he ran that license plate and said it did come back to Bad Boy Records. That's one thing. The other thing, and what's interesting about this, is that evidence was not collected by police. It was collected by Cudi. He said that there were fingerprints taken from the door, from a door handle at Cuddy's place. But that evidence, those fingerprints were collected by Cuddy and then turned over to police. But he testified about those fingerprints. Then you have the fire department officer testifying about a fingerprint that they got from the Porsche. And he never connects the dots, but it certainly was made to seem to the jury like the fingerprints collected at the car might match the fingerprints collected at Cuddy's house. The reality is they didn't. They were not a match. And furthermore, you had the LAPD officer testifying that those fingerprints from Cuddy's house disappeared, that they were destroyed. Now, why they were destroyed, the LA Fire Department officer said, I don't know why it would have been destroyed. That's the kind of thing that I would have to approve before it was done. And once that testimony came out, well, you had the defense standing up and saying, this is prosecutorial misconduct. We want a mistrial declared. And that started a whole discussion about why they thought this was a mistrial. They think, the defense, Diddy's attorneys think that the prosecutors brought up these fingerprints knowing that they were not a match, but brought them up just to raise that in the jury's mind that maybe it is, and that's the evidence that says Diddy, one, broke into Cuddy's house and also was responsible for for firebombing his car. Remember, they don't match. So the defense is saying, look, prosecutors know they don't match, but they brought that up anyway. And further, then they bring up this thing about the fingerprints from Cuddy's house being destroyed. They're making it sound as if Diddy maybe had something to do with this, that Diddy potentially paid off someone to destroy that evidence. And the defense said, look, we already know that this is an issue. It's sort of a myth that's out there because they know this from jury selection, that one of the questions that was put to all the potential jurors and some of the jurors who were even serving is, do you think that really wealthy celebrities can pay their way out of trouble? And there were people who said, yes, they do believe that. So that's what the defense was so upset about. They said, they're putting all these seeds in the heads of the jurors to make them think that our client is paying off people and that he had anything to do with destruction of evidence. We want a mistrial. Well, they didn't get it. And that's why I think you got to say that the winners today were the prosecutors. The judge said, I am not declaring a mistrial. We've gotten too far into this. What the judge did say was he instructed the jurors to ignore all of that evidence, that they should not consider any of the evidence about the fingerprints from the car or from Cuddy's house. Just forget it. Now, let's be real. I mean, the judge can say that to the jurors, you forget it. It never happened. You can't consider it. But they know, they heard it, and they also saw how the defense reacted to it. That's got to have some impact on them. And that's potentially, if Diddy is convicted and he's looking for grounds for an appeal, remember this day, because this is going to be one of the things that they would certainly bring up as a reason for an appeal, and that this should have been declared a mistrial. They didn't get that today, but maybe it will help them down the road. But again, the winner here is the prosecutors, because there was no mistrial, and they got the jury to hear a lot of evidence about these two incidents. Plus, they heard more evidence of Diddy being abusive, not only to Cassie, but to other employees and threatening other employees, which of course all goes toward racketeering. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, Deontay Nash back on the stand, and also supposed to be Mia, a former assistant, who is actually referred to as
while my computer's catching up to all this tea that's been spilled, remember, sippers, when you come into the room, put your teacups up and like, subscribe, get comfortable. Whenever your teacup's empty, just sit tight because we are keeping the tea pouring, okay? We are looking into more stuff about Diddy between trial days. Okay. Let's jump into it with another update from TMZ. Thank you, TMZ. Let's see. What's tea about Diddy? Diddy. Whenever my computer catches up, please be patient, sippers. We know Rome wasn't built in a week, and neither were these computers. So, okay, a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. Okay, so we already got updated about the dismissal of the mistrial. We're updated about that, right? We know about that. So. Okay. They're not really talking much more about what we already know. Okay. Let's get into some law and crime. She's boots on the ground for law and crime.
By the way, just to give you an insight about what's been happening, a lot of scheduling issues between the prosecution, the judge, the defense. They want to stay on schedule. They're flying people in and out, witnesses. The directives may be going longer, the crosses may be going longer. So they're trying to figure it all out, particularly with the witness today, Mia, alleged victim number 4. Let's talk about it. Let me bring in right now Elizabeth Milner, our law and crime reporter who was in that courtroom for the testimony of Mia. Elizabeth, so good to see you. So
I don't know what's going on. My computer's lagging, dragging, and being stagnant. Thank you. You want some?
It's an important witness, right? Because this is somebody who is going by a pseudonym. This is alleged victim number 4 in this case. And she has described not only what her working relationship was like with Sean Combs, what this environment was like, but she claims that she, was a victim of both physical and sexual abuse. Talk to us about what Mia said so far.
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. So yeah, Mia came onto the witness stand right after Deontay Nash. So she comes in, and I'm going to be very kind of careful as far as how I'm describing her because she is testifying under a pseudonym, and you can tell a little bit inside the courtroom why she is doing that. When she walks inside the courtroom, she keeps her head down. She doesn't look towards the defense table. She doesn't really look at us in the gallery. She just makes a beeline to the witness stand. And even while she's testifying, Jesse, she's very soft-spoken. She's very quiet in at times. So you can feel just her apprehension just about everything as far as testifying goes. Even while answering the prosecution's questions, she's keeping her head down from what I can see over in the gallery. But you can just feel just the nervousness from her as far as testifying. And even when she gets off the stand, she doesn't look at the defense table. She just walks past the gallery. Her family and her support system go right after her, and then she goes over into a private room. But just as far as just some of the testimony that she had talked about today, she did describe that Diddy did take violence out on her too. Mia described that Diddy would throw things at her. He would throw her against the wall. One time he even slammed her arm into a door and then even sexually assaulted her more than once.
Yeah, and let's just wait for this siren to go down. Very, very busy street. This is somebody we had anticipated, right?
Uh-oh. Now, Mia is supposed to be, sorry guys, I'm eating chips and tuna fish. Somebody That is a Jane Doe. So Mia, I believe, is not her real name, right? Name, so on. She testified, according to Miss Milner, that is boots on the ground for law and crime, that she was actually assaulted by Diddy several times while being his personal assistant. Not good testimony at all. Okay. Not good testimony at all. Oh.
She's important for multiple reasons. She's important not only to corroborate what Cassie Ventura has said, but if you're talking about a pattern of abuse towards women, put aside the sex trafficking count for...
No. We are not putting aside, Mr. Jesse, the sex trafficking charge. That's probably the biggest charge he has right now against him is the sex trafficking charge and racketeering. Okay, we're not putting that aside for 1 second at all during the Diddy trial. Because if you're trying to say that that's what it tied into, how can you do that if he didn't first of all, he didn't traffic her into the organization of working for Diddy because she applied and he hired her. Now, if while working for Diddy that occurred, then there you go. But if he aped her, say while they were together one day in a business professional environment or whatever have you, and it happened, can y'all convict Diddy in sex trafficking because he did that to her and put him in federal prison under a RICO charge for that? Or should he have been tried in a state level court? That's my questions.
Play back in my ear, by the way. Putting aside the sex trafficking count for Cassandra Ventura, what we're also talking about is the racketeering charge. And we just got word that prosecutor Madison Smizer said her direct examination is likely going to take the rest of the day. What do you anticipate she's going to say, Elizabeth, from what we've heard so far?
Well, I definitely think they're going to get into more of just the violence that Amia had witnessed while working for Diddy, but also being Cassie's best friend. A role that she still has to this day. The two are really close friends, something that Deontay Nash even confirmed while he was.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay gifted.